Hi, I'm Antonio Centeno, the founder of Real Men Real Style. Today I'm going to be talking to you about winter headwear. What hat to choose when it's cold outside and you don't want your ears to freeze off. Okay guys, this is in support of my article over at The Art of Manliness. So I'm going to link to that article right down below and go to that article. I'm going to go into a lot more detail than I'm going to go into here in the video. But I wanted to give you guys some visuals, wanted to talk to you a little bit about it, and I really want to stress, here is where function trumps style. So usually I like them to mix about evenly, but I'm going to say here, when you're talking about cold weather gear or even hot weather gear to some extent, but cold weather gear, you want to be careful because your extremities, you can get frostbite on the edges of your ears. And I look around here in the United States, I don't know what has happened, but it seems like a lot of us, especially younger kids, don't seem to ever want to wear hats. And just my wife sees this coming from Ukraine and she goes nuts. She says babushka is going to jump out of the trees, which if you're Slavic, you understand this. And they would just yell at you if you do not wear a hat. But here in the United States, I mean, literally in Wisconsin, it is negative 10 degrees outside. And just yesterday, one of my son's friends, kids running around like a pair of shorts and no hat on. I mean, it's crazy. But okay, so to help you guys understand this though, you're looking at different watch caps, you're looking at, I don't know, maybe a felt Homburg. I mean, you're looking at all these different hats and you're wondering, what should I wear? What's going to keep me warm? Remember that if something's made out of different materials, it's going to have different insulating properties. So thinking with the function, we always want to lean towards items that are made from wool or specialty man-made fibers that are made to insulate and keep in heat. Now, the number of man-made fibers, that's all over the board. I can't give you an exact, but if usually you're looking at something and it has like a whole breakdown of how it actually is going to wick away sweat and it's going to pull that out, to the outer layers, that is usually a pretty good thing. In fact, I've got one watch cap here made by at Carol Davis Sportswear out of, where is she at? She's I believe in Arkansas. Now she used to be actually out of Nebraska, but in any case, she uses out of Malden Mills. They use this really high-tech Power Stretch Polytech, I believe was what it's called. And what it does is it wicks. So something like this is really great if you're going to be out on snowmobile trails and wearing, a helmet over this, and you're going to be sweating, or you're going to have multiple layers. You need something that's going to wick away moisture from your body. A lot of times, though, and let's just say you're out walking around, New York City, and you're wearing a really nice overcoat. A simple dress watch cap is going to work perfectly fine. And this is a dress watch cap for a number of reasons. One, it's charcoal gray. Not black exactly. Black would work fine, and maybe a little bit lighter gray would be fine as well. But it doesn't really have any big patterns in it. It does have a bit of a pattern in the weave, but actually a little bit thicker knit weave is a bit dressier with this dark weave here. So this is, not functionally, it will keep you warm. It's made from wool, so it'll do a good job insulating, but it has a bit of a dressy look to it, which again is achieved with the weave and with the solid dark color. Now, this is an example of a watch cap from my son's wardrobe, and it was the only one I could find with some bright colors, but you can see all the colors here. And not a really bright, but anytime you start to introduce patterns like this, and this one's cotton. No, is this? Yeah, this is cotton. No, I'm sorry, this is acrylic. The great thing about an acrylic watch cap is you can simply throw it in the wash when it's dirty. You can't do that with wool, and you have to be, cotton you can do that as well, but cotton isn't going to have, but this acrylic is going to do a better job than cotton in terms of wicking away moisture and actually retaining heat. So this works well for a young man. All right, 1 second. Off camera. Back, dropped one of my hats. Okay, so this is very informal. As you can tell, it is a pig, one of my daughter's hats. But this is what, this is a chuyo. And from anyone from South America or anyone that does any snowboarding or anything like that, you probably recognize the design of the hat. Ignore the pig. This was the only example I had in my house. But the great part about this South American style hat is that it covers the ears. So a lot of American watch caps, they don't have anything like this. The South Americans, maybe they were a bit smarter and they said, hey, we're going to cover the ears and we're going to have it even so it wraps around your cheeks. Now, when it comes to levels of formality, whenever something starts to cover the ears and wrap around the face, it technically drops down in levels of formality. And part of that is being able to send signals when you're engaging. However, if, let's say today, actually, the President of the United States, Barack Obama, he is having his inauguration. So yeah, if you're watching this video, it's probably already passed and everything. But in any case, if you were out there at that time, I would say dress for function, because it's probably going to be super cold out there. But if the weather isn't that bad and you're just bringing out a hat just to, to add, and you think you're going to be just fine, then you would maybe want to look at something a bit more formal. And what do I mean by formal? Where there are other hats out there which you consider. Right now, I've shown you examples of watch caps, and watch caps form around the head. They are informal, but they work out very well functionally. For more formal hats, we want to look at maybe Ushankas or trapper hats. And this is not a formal. This one actually is coming out of Eddie Bauer, but it gives you an idea of the Ushanka. So you can see that right there. Now, having lived and spent time in Ukraine and other parts of the former Soviet Union, I can tell you over there, those guys, and that's where a lot of these winter styles come from, because they live and breathe in the cold weather. We're talking, if you've ever been up to Siberia, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, over there, winter is harsh. And if you don't, here in the United States, you can get away with it to an extent, maybe not so much up in Canada, but if you do not wear the proper gear, you're going to get frostbite really fast in those parts of the world. And as they had to dress nice, they came up with a number of different styles. So we have the Ushanka, we have the Astrakhan. The Astrakhan, that one is, I don't have an example with me. Go ahead and I'm going to link to it in the Art of Manliness article. So go ahead and check that one out. We also have the Wool Newsboy. That is more of an American version, but I would say the Wool Newsboy, it's more of like a cap on top. It looks like the traditional Newsboy, but it's going to be made from usually a thicker weave, and more, it's not going to protect the sides of the head as well. The nice thing about the Ushanka or the trapper hat is that you can unbutton it. Even on, I've seen men do this, and the most Russians or Ukrainians I've seen, they never do this, but you can bring the hat down like that to cover the ears, and this is what we consider more of the trapper hat. But when it's up like this, and a lot of Ushankas I've never seen them come down. They all look like they can, but I've never grabbed, some random, former Soviet guy and tried to pull his hat down to check that, so can't tell you. Okay, so there are also dress hats. So the Homburg, a number of other you can get them dress caps that are formed on top. You can get those made in, you can get those, they come in a felt, and that's going to be a bit heavier. It's going to protect more from the wind, and it's going to have a dressier look. However, it's not going to cover the ears or protect the sides of the head, but often it will keep the top of the head warm. Okay, then we also have particular military winter wear. A lot of this, I think, which sets it apart is you'll see it doesn't always cover the ears, and this plays into effect is that we don't want to muffle sound. So that's one thing you'll often notice is they have a little pop-up so that you can still hear pretty well and it doesn't muffle the sound. In addition, they're not going to really care much about style, but in doing so, because they focus on function, I think a lot of them are pretty stylish. So you'll look at different militaries around the world have different hats they come out with. Check out the article. I show you a few pictures and I link to a few as well. Okay, so the hat is just a piece, gentlemen. There are other parts. Don't forget your scarf. I'm going to link to my scarf article down below. I've put out quite a few videos and a great article on how to tie different types of scarves. In addition, consider something like a neck gaiter or a dickie. And this is really nice. Actually, I got this from Carol Davis Sportswear. I do a review on it, and I love it because it slips right over. And even if I'm wearing a really nice overcoat, I can wear this, and it keeps my neck warm and comes up here and basically makes it look like I'm wearing a turtleneck, but it comes right off. I love this little piece of gear. If it's super cold and you're going to spend some time outside, like down in Antarctica, then you see things where they cover every single part of the body. And that's where you've got a full hood on with goggles. So if it calls for it, make it happen. All right, guys. This has been Antonio Centeno with Real Men, Real Style. If you like this video, I would appreciate it if you would click on the like button. Make sure to subscribe. And if you haven't already, make sure to grab my free 47-page ebook on men's style. I link to that down below as well. And I will see you guys in the comments. Bye-bye.